Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you another video for our Sons of Anarchy countdown to the final season. We are exactly 8 days away from the start of the upcoming final season of Sons of Anarchy. Definitely getting excited for it. I know that they're going to have a lot of great things in store for us. And to help us count down, I'm going to be doing some videos in order to help us get to the, basically just a countdown. I'm going to be doing some videos while the final season is going on. But today what I wanted to do was the top 10, my personal top 10 list for the most shocking deaths that have occurred on Sons of Anarchy. Every year, Sons of Anarchy has killed off several characters, and some in very brutal or shocking ways. It adds to the shock value, and it definitely, puts you on edge for a lot of the series, wondering what's going to happen. The show does have a very unpredictable tone to it. And today what I'm going to do is go over my top 10 most shocking. So just in case you're not caught up on Sons of Anarchy, this video will contain spoilers, so please do not watch it if you are not caught up. Okay. The first thing I want to do is I want to do some honorable mentions, because if I'd done this list each year, several of these characters probably would have been on the list. I mean, they've really had like a lot of characters killed off of the show in various different ways. And when I mean shocking, like, sometimes I look at how unexpected was it. I look at the manner that went into the death. I look at just the overall circumstances surrounding it. And you take all that into consideration, and a lot of these characters that I'm going to mention in the honorable mentions would have been on the list. And my honorable mentions are Half Sack from Season 2. Definitely was very unexpected. Johnny Lewis did want to leave the show, so that's why they did that. David Hale in the Season 3 premiere, again, that was another thing where Taylor Sheridan did not want to be on the show anymore, but it was still a shocking death. Very unexpected. I picked Luann as an honorable mention. We definitely didn't see that one coming. Just the very nature of her getting beaten to death was very shocking. Agent Tyler, who was Stahl's partner in the third season that she shot in order to exonerate Gemma. Never saw that coming until it happened. Kozik, played by Kenny Johnson. That pretty much happened because Kenny Johnson was working on another show at that point. And just, the way that Kozik went out, stepping on a landmine, like you never expected that a character was going to die like that, just out of the blue, like a Sons of Anarchy member. So that's why I have him down. Miles I have down because that was definitely a brutal scene between him and Juice. Definitely thought that that was worth an honorable mention. Damon Pope I have down as an honorable mention because, again, the thought that went into that was, again, very, very shocking to see Jax actually formulate his plan. I thought Tig was a goner, and to see Jax put his mind to use and did what he did, I thought was very shocking. And I also have Guard Mackey. And Guard Mackey was the guy who basically set up the ring so that Opie would get killed. Like, basically, because Damon Pope had it set up in prison that one of the members of the Sons had to die. He was the one that set that up, and Jax later beat him to death with the snow globe. Definitely was just a very brutal scene in general. I mean, seeing the way that he died, the song "It's a Small World After All" playing in the background, just everything that went into that, again, still, to me, it was still shocking. So that's why I have it as an honorable mention. But I just feel like these 10 characters below, just the way that everything occurred and, all the circumstances put together, they were a little more shocking. So number 10, I have down as Agent June Stahl, who was killed in the Season 3 finale. Now, Stahl had been a big enemy of the Sons, just, had basically was responsible for Donna's death, was responsible for Half Sack's death and sending Gemma on the run. I mean, she definitely had done a lot of damage to the club, and I think that, seeing Opie finally get his revenge and finally doing that was just very, shocking in general. I mean, it was, a lot went into that, and I know that a lot of us were rah-rahing at the TV screen, when that happened, but, just a lot of things that went into it. I mean, it was definitely a very, important moment on the show, and you definitely had a lot of, like, you didn't really see it coming until it actually happened, and I just feel like Stahl being such a big enemy, seeing the way that she went out with Opie, sitting behind her and killing her in almost the same fashion with pretty much the same weapon that Donna was killed with, was just definitely very, worthy of making it a in my top 10. I mean, it was just a very shocking moment in general, and definitely, a very vindictive moment for a character like Opie. And I just thought that everything went into it perfectly. I thought Sutter did a great job, and I just felt like it deserved to be on my list. So that's why I have it as number 10. Number 9, I have down as Galen O'Shea, which Galen is played by Timothy Murphy. He's been on the show from seasons 4 to 6. He was like the IRA contact with Clay and the rest of the club. And the reason why I have it down is even though, Galen was still an important character. And while he may not have been as important as other characters like Half Sack or, a couple, or Hale or a couple of other characters I have in my honorable mentions, his death came so out of the blue it wasn't even funny. I mean, he goes to extend his hand to basically congratulate Jax for breaking Clay out of the prison transport van, and just all of a sudden, bam! And then you're just like, what the heck? I mean, my mouth dropped to the floor whenever Jax shot him. I mean, it was just, again, the shock value that went into that. You did not see that coming at all. I had no clue that Galen was going to get killed, and I just think that, seeing all of like the plans go into motion, because you were wondering exactly what, like, the whole entire 6th season was about getting rid of the gun running, handing the IRA off to somebody else, and seeing Jax actually do his plan, that was shocking in general. You saw how much went into that, and I just loved it. And I thought that, again, it was just so unexpected that Galen, I don't even think Galen saw it coming, quite frankly, but I mean, that was just a very shocking moment. I felt like it had to be in my top 10 because I could not believe it when it happened either. Number 8, I have down as Eli Roosevelt, who was played by Rockman Dunbar. Roosevelt has definitely been a very interesting character. Partially, he's supposed to be an antagonist towards the Sons. I mean, he's the sheriff and he wants to, take the Sons down if they do anything to his town. But I felt like, Roosevelt has definitely had a very interesting relationship with the Sons throughout the entire series. And, he's standing in the room. He comes in on Tara's murder scene, and I totally thought, maybe he's just going to take Gemma in, and the last season's just going to be like a shocking thing. And then all of a sudden, Juice ends up behind him and just shoots him in the back. And I was just, after having seen Tara's death happen, to have Roosevelt's happen right after that, again, just added to the shock value. You never saw these things coming, and just to have it happen to a character like Roosevelt in that fashion, again, was just shocking in general. So that's why I have Roosevelt down as my number 8. Number 7, I have down as Donna Winston, the only season 1 death that I have, which was really the only major season 1 death that occurred in the Sleep of Babies. And again, I think we all know why Donna's on this list. I mean, Donna's death was really the first example of, Clay's treachery. Clay, it established who Clay was as a character. It definitely was just, that whole storyline, you were wondering as a viewer, well, what's going to happen to Opie? What's going to happen to him? Because you're thinking that it's going to be Opie that gets killed. And just seeing, Tig pull up behind Donna, and you're like looking at the TV and you're like, oh my God, this isn't happening. And, the gunfire hits and that she's dead. And I just think that, again, it was just the emotional, toll that it took on several of the other characters, again, made it that much more shocking and more of an impact on the audience. And that's, again, something that you look at is, how much did these characters actually impact the audience as well? And Donna definitely had a big impact. Her death pretty much was, a big pinnacle point of seasons 2 and 3. And I just feel like not including her on the list would just be an injustice, just because of how much actually happened after her death because of her death. And Donna was just a very good character. We enjoyed seeing her. Her and Opie's relationship was always a very interesting point. And I just think that it was very shocking, and that's why I had to include her on the list. Number 6, I have down as Clay Morrow. And some of you may be shocked that I put Clay down so low on the list. But, I mean, when you think about it, you kind of saw it coming after Galen got killed. So it's not necessarily that it was totally shocking, like, unlike other deaths that kind of came out of the blue or there was more impact to him. I think that, we all had mixed feelings about Clay. I like Clay as a character. Ron Perlman did a really good job of just portraying that character. You couldn't have done it with any other actor. He was just a really great influence on the show. And I just think that what was shocking about it was more of like everything else that was going on around. I mean, the scene when Gemma looks in at him and Clay kind of looks at Gemma, and it's almost like, all the emotions on his face, it's like part of it he's like accepting it, another part of it he's partially scared a little bit, and then I think in another respect, he's looking at Gemma and just seeing like the one great thing that he had left maybe in his life. And just all that going on at the same time just made it a very big scene. And once Jack shot him, again, it was a little more brutal than a couple of other deaths that have happened, the amount of bullets that went into him. I mean, just so much emotion goes into that scene. But again, I don't think that it's as shocking. I think you kind of saw it coming. And I think that just, your emotional reaction to it may not have been as extreme as other characters, just because of the way Clay is portrayed. You kind of do start to see him as a bad guy in the later seasons, and you just expected that it was going to happen. But again, it was shocking in general. It was a nicely done scene by Kurt Sutter. I think he did a lot of things right with it. And again, it was shocking in general. Number 5, I have down as Piney Winston, who was killed in season 4's Family Recipe. And the reason why I have Piney up, at number 5 is because, again, it was more of an emotional scene for Piney, to see Piney killed by Clay, over the letters, seeing how much the letters actually mean. And this is the first time that really we've ever had like a death of a Sons of Anarchy member after. I mean, Half-Sack was still important, but he was only a prospect. Actually seeing like a major character like Piney get killed was definitely a very shocking moment in general. And just the scene was just played out, like you're waiting, you're like, there's like that part of you that hopes that Clay is just gonna beat him up and leave. But the moment that he shoots Piney, you know that the show is going to change after this. The relationships between several of the people on the show are going to start to disintegrate. You definitely knew that it was going to be a big moment. So, taking all that into consideration, I had to put Piney up in the top 5. I mean, he was such a loving character. We loved him as an audience, and it was sad to see him go. Number 4, I kind of cheated a little bit where I put 2 characters into one, but that's because they happened so close together and it was so like intimately related that you can't really just separate them. And those characters are Otto and Toric, who were both killed in season 6, episode 4, Wolf's Angel. Just the scene in general is just so shocking. I mean, I think us as an audience, we expected like Toric to be an entire season villain. Definitely was going to be a major antagonist, and just to see him killed off so early was just shocking in general. Like, I was like, they're going to shoot Otto, and Toric's just going to walk out of there and be more brutal. But no, like, when Otto slits Toric's throat, it's just, you're like, what the heck's going on here? And we later found out that the actor Donald Logue got a job on season 2's Vikings on History Channel, so he had to leave early for filming, and that's why Sutter had to do it. And I just think that, the amount of hatred between these 2 characters, you kind of wanted to see that come to a head, and it's just in general, like, you did not see it coming. It literally was I did not see that coming, and I honestly didn't. I thought it was definitely going to play out a different way, and it was also shocking to see, Otto, take one more stand. Because you see this guy as a broken, insane man. I mean, Otto's just a crazy guy. And Sutter does a great job of portraying that. He's been beaten down pretty much the entire series. He's a broken man. And just to see him take one last stand was just, again, shocking to the audience, and it was, definitely a big impact for the show. So I think, again, Very unexpected scene, and I think that it was very well executed and just shocking in general. So that's why I have it as number 4. Number 3, I put down as Tara Knowles, who was killed off in season 6's finale. Now, part of the reason why I have her as number 3 is the top 2 definitely were more shocking in general. But I think that Tara's death again set such a big impact for the show. We know that it's going to have big ramifications in season 7, and definitely just the way that it was done. I mean, Gemma brutally killed her. There's no question about it. Taking a fork to the head while you're getting drowned is just very brutal. That in itself made it shocking, in general. I think we kind of saw it coming, though, a little bit, once Tara tried to take the kids away. So I think in that respect, it was also a little bit, it's like still shocking, but again, like I don't think it's as shocking as the first 2 that I have on the list. But again, it was definitely sad to see Maggie Sif go. She's a great actress, definitely played a great role, and it was just definitely a very shocking moment for the series. And the brutality that went into it, I know that we as an audience, our hearts broke. They definitely did. But again, like the way that Tara, like we kind of relate to Tara, and I think that again, like I'm going to do an analysis video just on Tara's character, but I think that again, like you started to look at her somewhat as a bad guy, even though you can kind of justify why she's doing what she did. I mean, I definitely can justify what she did. I mean, it's definitely hard, potentially losing your family your entire life because of, you made a poor choice. And I think she blames herself, she blames Jack, she blames a lot of things. And I think that, but again, I think that we kind of didn't look at her in as favorable of a light as we did in earlier seasons. So that's why I have her down as number 3. Number 2, I have as Dawn Trager, who was killed in the season 5 premiere. This was Tig's daughter. And I mean, this is just absolutely the most shocking, brutal, like in regards to like the brutality, if I had to list them in brutality wise, like deaths, this would be number 1. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than getting burned in a pit alive. Absolutely devastating. I mean, seeing the reaction of Tig as he watches his daughter burn definitely doesn't set Tig, in a good position at all. I mean, you see he's still suffering, and nobody ever gets over that. I mean, come on. If you can honestly say you can get up one day and totally forget about that, you're nuts. And I mean, it was just so shocking, so heartbreaking, so brutal. I mean, I can barely watch it without, like, shaking a little bit inside. Because you just, seeing her on fire, knowing that she didn't do a darn thing. It was Tig's fault, and Tig's just pleading, like, don't kill her, kill me. Which would have been the proper thing to do, but instead, Pope wanted to exact a harsher penalty on Tig. And again, just the brutality that went into that, it's just shocking in general. There's no question about it. It's just heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking scene. And that's why I had to have it high on the list, because you just never felt the same about Sons of Anarchy after you watched that scene. It was terrible. It was absolutely heartbreaking. So that's why I have it as number 2. And finally, number 1, I have down as Opie Winston, who was killed in the 3rd episode of the 5th season called Laying Pipe. And I mean, Opie was just one of the favorite characters, one of the best characters on the show. And I think that everything about it is what makes it the most number 1 shocking. I think if you took a poll, I think Opie would definitely win out on the most shocking death. I mean, he is such a loving character. We love to watch him. We loved his character. Seeing his journey, he definitely had a journey like equivalent to Jack's or Clay. I mean, just his character development was so much. He was so focused on. And just, the shocking moment of him going into the ring and saving his friends is again shocking, and just seeing the reactions of all the characters, of Jax, of Chibs, Tig pounding on the window, it broke your heart. And I think that seeing such a good man like Opie go down the way he did, again, is shocking and just had the biggest impact on the audience. And it came at a very unexpected time. like the third episode of a season. Like you look at some of these other deaths and they happen more towards the end of a season, for the most part. I mean, they either happen in the season finales midway through or like right in the premiere. And having Opie killed off in the third episode of a season was again very unexpected. It's like the equivalent of Walking Dead's Killer Within when they killed T-Dog and Lori. I mean, you just don't see that happening in a fourth episode of a season. And again, like here, especially to such a major character like Opie, just everything about it was shocking. The scene was just very, it broke your heart. So much emotion went into that scene, and that's again why I had to have it as number one. Opie is a great guy, and it was just so hard to see him go. So I want to thank everybody again. I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Feel free to leave your own list if you have your own opinions. You're more than welcome to do so. I can understand if people want to disagree or agree with me on certain parts of this list. You are more than welcome to do so. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And again, I want to thank everybody that has watched the videos. I do appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and I'm really thankful to be doing this for all of you. So, thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.